Can I do it?
Let's go.
Shall I do? Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vedvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmad Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Karpanya Pahatasvabhavah Prachami Tvam Dharma Sammudachetaha Yashreyasyan Nishchitam Bruhitan Me Shishyasteham Shadhimam Tvam Prapannam. Om Vang Me Manasi Pratishtita Mano Me Vachi Pratishthitam Avir Edihi Vedasya Ma Anishthaha Shrutam Me Ma Prahasihi Anena Dhitena Anena Dhitena Ahoratran Sandadami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmam avatu tad vaktaram avatu avatu mam avatu vaktaram om shanti shanti shantihi. Om bhadram karnebih shunyamadevaha bhadram pashyemakshabhiryajatraha sthiraira angai stuštuvagvam sastanubhihi veshema devahitam yadayu. Swasti na Indro Vrudrashravaha, Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha, Swasti nastarksho Arishthanemi, Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Om Aham Vrikshasya Reriva, Kirti Prishtham Gireriva, Urdhva Pavitro Vajaniva, Swamritam Asmi, Dravinagvam Savarchasam. Sumedha Amritoshitaha iti Trishankor Vedanuvacanam. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi.
Narayan, everyone.
Narayan.
Thank you, Naina. Very, very nicely enunciated. All the words were very properly pronounced, right? So it was perfect. I think now you can start to work on the lay, the tune, and the speed. So your speed is a little bit faster than it should be. So slow it down a little bit and practice the tune, and then you're perfect. Awesome. All right. Sanchita, last time you didn't summarize, so why don't we have you summarize this time?
Well,
before Sanchita summarizes, can I just owe up something what happened last week when I didn't join? So I was very, I had decided that I'm going to really come prepared to the Gita class. And I sat back to do my preparation. Also because I was coming from the fact, I took back what I learned from the other class and I did cut down on my seva. I had the guts to go and write and explain, and things were, so I said, no, I have to do this for my Gita class. I learned it, but I changed my laptop. And because my laptop was changed, my headset didn't work. I completely lost it. And when I called Sanchita later, she said, Didi, it was so much about what happened. I lost it on, obviously the only person is easy to lose it on Obijit. I threw my Apple Watch. My Apple Watch broke. I I just lost it that day. And then when I did the whole, and I sat back to also prepare for today's class, and it was all about what had happened in my life on Sunday. And then there was a lot of takeaway, and I understood that I really need to work on anger, which doesn't come always, but when it comes so badly without any logic. And that is something I want to work on. And thanks for last class and your explanation on uh, all the points relating to action, thoughts, etc. I thought it was bad.
Amazing. See, it's all about the classes. Satsang is just a way for us to learn the frameworks and then apply them. And you're becoming aware and applying them is you walking the path.
So
Thank you for sharing.
yeah, thank you for sharing. That's very powerful sharing. I'll just add that all of these are tools for us to walk forward in our sadhana. This class, this book, everything that we're doing, we have to be very careful not to get attached to them. So when you get angry, when you get anxiety, all of that is just a red flag for us to become aware that we have attachment. ऐसा नहीं कि we have to get detached from sansar, but attached to these things. We have to work at attachment at the very subtle level itself. If Bhagwan ji ki इच्छा होगी, आप कुछ भी करो, आपका somehow you will get to the class. अगर उनकी इच्छा नहीं होगी, whatever you do, you buy a brand new laptop right then and there to try and join the class, you won't be able to join the class. Right? So somewhere work on that subtle aspect of your being where you catch that attachment in place. And if you feel that anxiety and anger, give it up. Say, no, whatever is happening is his will. And that's best for me.
And end of the day, whatever circumstances happen, like this circumstance happened to show you that aspect of yours, to bring that awareness. So I think that incident has done its job and you have learned from it what you needed to learn. So everything happens for a reason. And like Abhinav said, if we experience fear, anxiety, anger, upset in any situation, the only thing that you need to work on is figure out where is the attachment. Every one of these experiences mean that there is an attachment underlying it. Kahin na kahin, somewhere. Sometimes that attachment is under high sounding principles, right? Or high sounding words that we use. But there's always an attachment. If you have a vairagya, if you have no asakti, if you have no attachment, then none of these feelings would arise. Then you would only experience freedom and happiness and calmness. But if you're not experiencing it, then go deeper and find where that attachment is and just work to weed that out. And remember, we can't weed it out by ourselves. Just become aware, offer it to Bhagwanji, and then of course figure it out for yourself, like what you need to do better, what are the learnings that you need to have, right? Amazing.
This is literally the next shloka that we're going to talk about. Even this one. Anyways.
Okay, so I'll go. So I think last class what we spoke about was the Lord was talking about how the behavior of a devotee and what are the thoughts that a devotee has in his mind. So one thing that we spoke about was someone who is beyond fear, anxiety, elation, intolerance, that is the kind of behavior that the Lord wants us to have. And the moment we are aware, like what you said and like what Kakuli kind of recounted, the moment we are aware of the above emotions, it really means that there is some bit of attachment still left in us, and therefore we need to go back to the root cause of it and see what is driving that kind of emotion in us, and do course correction accordingly. We also spoke about the thought that that a devotee has in his mind, which is like he spoke about free of expectations, which means basically that you work, whatever you do, whatever work you do it out of happiness and not for happiness. You don't have any expectations in your heart when you're working or doing your karma. The last shloka also spoke about of a devotee who is pure in heart. So he does not have any malified intentions. He, whatever he does, whatever it is, it is as a seva that he's doing to God, and there's no underlying, gain or underlying things that, what am I going to supposed to gain from this? That, that actually, kind of prompts him to do that, take that action. He's also a person who is, the devotee is action, so he's also very careful, does all the actions for the Lord and is extremely careful and exceed. So everything is, whatever you're doing is out of happiness, and it's almost like a seva for the Lord. So whether you're doing your daily jobs, whether it's eating, whether it's, everything is kind of how should I put it, everything is kind of given, or wo arpan karke, I mean, it's everything is given to him, and then you're doing it as a seva for him. So it says that we need to be mindful of the actions that we are doing, and vairagya becomes very important, because the moment you're detached and the moment you remove that I am doing it or I am responsible for it, that's the time when your detachment starts coming up. So that is very important. We also, such a devotee is also impartial, is undistracted. So he's a single-minded focus is the Lord. He's free of uncontrolled ambitions. So, which is, anything that he does is not for his personal gain. It is free from, and any money or whatever he does, it really does not have any malice underlying it. And of course, such a devotee is free from elation, grief, hatred, and covetousness, and is free from any kind of bias. So what it really means is, as people, we need to keep our behavior in check. So all of us has the Ram and Ravan in us, but I think somewhere it is, how are we able to and the moment we are able to cut down the Ravan, those kind of instincts in us, we become Ram. So we can't, so whatever we do, we need to start removing our ego from it. We need to start becoming detached from it. I mean, to finally, believe and do it everything as a seva for God. So so it basically spoke about the thoughts that a devotee has in his mind and how a devotee should behave going forward.
Correct. Very nicely put together, Sanchita. So as we are coming to the end of chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga, Bhagwanji is basically giving us a few pointers. These pointers, chapter 12 is one of the most important chapters in Gita. Okay, it's a chapter that you should go back to again and again. Chapter 3, chapter 12, chapter 15, right? So in the last few shlokas, he is telling us about, first, characteristics of a yogi, characteristics of a bhakt, okay? Who he becomes, who his being becomes. So it's not about what he does, it is about who he is, all right? Who he becomes. And from that space, then he talks about what are the thoughts that emanate inside such a person, right? So he gives us the characteristics, which was shloka 13 and 14. And then 15 and 16, he tells us about the thoughts that emanate in such a person, okay, and internal behavior of such a person. And going forward, over next couple of shlokas, he will talk about what is the external behavior of such a devotee looks like. So characteristics, what kind of internal state of being, internal thoughts, and internal behavior of such a person is, and what are the external behaviors of such a person. But the internal thoughts and external behaviors, these are symptomatic. These reflect the state of being, state of consciousness of a bhakt. This is what we need to aim towards. The state of being is what we need to aim towards. But we observe, state of being is not observable. It's an abstract. It's not something you can observe. What you can observe are your thoughts. You can observe how you behave with yourself. You can observe how you behave when nobody is looking at you, and you can observe how you behave with others. So these are the observations, observable qualities, right, which tell about the state of being. The words we use give us an indication of the state of being of a person. Okay. And all these behaviors and actions and words that are used give us, a lot of times we don't even know, we are not in touch with ourselves. We don't know what is our internal state of being. We think we are A, but we might be absolutely B or C. We're not being A. We may want to be A. We may aspire to be A, but our current state of being is B or C. How do we know what is our real state of being? What is my subconscious doing? Because it is the subconscious that drives 98%, 99% of our actions, right? So it is our actions and thoughts which come innately to us, which tell us what is my state of being. Okay. And when we stop and we consciously determine our thoughts, when we consciously let some thoughts go, we consciously hold on to some thoughts, we consciously cultivate some thoughts, we consciously cultivate some activities, that's the time when we are consciously changing our state of being through continuous practice. Right? So we should use these shlokas, the last few shlokas from 13 onwards, as indications of our own journey, flags for our own journey, as our own things of like, where is it that I need to work on? So if you feel anxious, you feel angry, you feel any of those negative states of being, right? Whenever you feel those emotions, come back, remind yourself of how this is not the kind of person you want to be, and then remind yourself of who you need to be, how you need to behave, what you need to think. And only that kind of behaviors are dear to the Lord. So if you want to attract Lord's grace on yourself uncontrollably, see, Bhagwanji doesn't then choose. Naina does the same thing and Sanchita does the same thing, but I will play favorites between the two and decide who gets what. No, it's a law of nature, and Bhagwanji follows his laws of nature just as he expects us to follow the laws of nature, right? So if you do A, you will attract his grace, no matter anything else, uncontrollably. That's his assurance that he gives to us. So if you want to attract his grace, then go back to this. What is the law of nature saying? How do I attract his grace? And then see, am I really behaving this way? Am I really thinking this way? If I'm not, am I really going to receive that grace that I expect or I want? And then what do I need to change? What do I need to work on? Take one or two things at a time and work on those. The lowest hanging fruit at that time for you. Yeah. Okay. So we'll go to Shloka 18, starting with connection. Anita, will you read with us?
Yes. Connection. The Lord now speaks of the reaction of the devotee towards the behavior of others.
External behavior here. Sama shatrau cha mitre cha.
Sama shatrau cha mitre cha.
Tatha manapamanayoho.
Tata manapapana yogo.
Yoho.
Yogo.
Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu.
Sitoshna shuka tukkeshu.
Samasanga vivarjitaha.
Samarsanga vivarjitaka.
Samah shatrau cha mitre cha is sam, is equivalence or equipoised with shatru and mitra, foe and friend. Man apman, okay, also in man apman, and cha is and. Shitoshna, sheath and ushna, cold and hot. Sukh and dukh, happiness and unhappiness, pleasure and pain. Sama sanga vivarjitaha means not having any asakti, not having any attachments. Next one. Tulya ninda stutir mauni.
Tulya ninda sutir mauni.
Santushto yena kenachit.
Santushto yena kenachit.
Aniketa sthir matihi.
Aniketa madir.
Sthir matihi.
Stir madihi.
Bhaktiman me priyo naraha.
Bhaktiman me priyo naraha.
Tulya ninda stuti. Tulya means same, right? In the same, weighed in the same way. Ninda stuti. Ninda is condemnation. And stuti is being talked highly of. Santushto, jo प्राप्त है वो पर्याप्त है. Satisfied, contented. Aniketah, unattached to Niketan, unattached to the home. Sthir matihi means steady mind. Bhakti man me priyo naraha. Such a devotee is dear to me.
The evenness of the mind, extending alike to friend and foe, to honor and dishonor, to cold and warm, pleasure and pain, and being devoid of affinities. Indifferent to condemnation or commendation, keen on contemplation, content with whatever he gets, unattached to his home, and with a steady mind. Such a devoted man is dear to me.
So there's a starting point here in this shloka. And I think we covered it in the previous shloka when we discussed point 4, which was impartial, and point 8, which was free of bias. In this shloka as well, there are starting points. And the starting point of anything that we do is equanimity, evenness of mind, equanimity. Why is equanimity important? Like we discussed in the previous class, only when we are equanimous will we be able to access the principles. If we are biased, if we are impartial, then we will be forced to act based on likes and dislikes and biases. So the starting point in this action, in this shloka, evenness of mind and equanimity. The second starting point of this shloka, after evenness of mind, is the keenness to contemplate. It is not being equanimous because you're being indifferent. It is not being equanimous because you don't care. It is being equanimous because you're keen to contemplate. What does contemplate mean? It is keen to reflect. It is keen to wonder about what is happening, why it's happening. And we talked about this, I think, 4 or 5 classes ago, the difference between analysis and reflection. This is not analysis. This is reflection. This is contemplation. And the best way for you to know if you're reflecting and not analyzing is when you are in a state of reflection or contemplation, you are non-judgmental. Everything just is. And every is will have a cause and will have a consequence, and you're just part of that flow. You don't fear the cause, you don't fear the consequence. It just is. Most of us, when we start analyzing, we start automatically become impartial. We have judgments, we have biases, we have likes and dislikes. So again, starting point for this shloka, first is equanimity. Without being equanimous, you cannot reflect. You are analyzing. And if you are analyzing, you're feeding your Ravan. Second is every situation, every circumstance, be keen to wonder. I think as adults, we spend very little time wondering. Because as adults, we tend to think we know it all. That's how we are trained to function as adults. If you don't come across as a know-it-all, or you don't seem confident as a person who knows it all, your value goes down in your job or society, etc. But here your Shastra is saying, what is more important is the faculty to contemplate and wonder why it's happening. But don't wonder to analyze, you wonder to be content. That's the third starting point of the shloka.
But also, I think one more part about contemplation is when you're contemplating to connect everything to your me story. Not just for the sake of learning new facts and figures and thoughts.
Yeah.
Again, the moment you're doing that and you're learning to just talk about it, to come across as like a pandit, as a smart person, then you're just feeding the Ravan, as Avinav said. If you are learning or reading or contemplating and thinking, it means it has to go inside. It has to become internal. You have to be able to wonder how it affects, how it relates to your me story, how it relates back to your own actions. When you're contemplating or thinking about a certain VVGP, think about what it means to you, not what it means for other person's behavior or what it means for the situation or what it means for other stakeholders, right? It always has to be, contemplation is always about yourself and your role to play. Yes, you will think about others' roles to play just to understand the situation. Ultimately, it has to come back to you. If it is not relating back to you, and at the end of that contemplation, you are not, like, your end goal should be what it means for me, what it means as an action point for me, and what do I need to do, who do I need to be in that particular situation, with that particular person, in that particular circumstance. Always. Otherwise, you're not contemplating correctly. Contemplation always has to reflect back to your me story and your own action points.
So
like, there's no blame game. There is no like, this person did that person did that, this should have happened that way, that should have happened that way. No, it's about
that's
what
all
it
analysis.
means for me. Yeah. What it means for me, who could I have been, what could I have done, what can I do better, what do I learn out of it, what does it tell me about my own internal state of being. Always that.
The only line I'd add here is reflection is definitely focused on self. That's why it's called self-reflection. But don't go in the trap of judging yourself.
Correct.
I can do this better. I can always do this. You can always do everything better in hindsight. That's why it's called hindsight, right? But that doesn't mean you don't fall. You're reflecting to connect back to actually to God. You're connecting back to two principles. It's a blessing or it's a lesson. Yeah. And if it's a blessing, bless. Feel blessed
be
and
grateful.
Pass on that blessing and be grateful. And if it's a lesson, then take that lesson.
Without judgment. See, the point is, we keep saying, don't judge others. But that point of like, whatever we judge others is because we judge ourselves first, right? So we have to learn to be non-judgmental when we are self-reflecting for ourselves as well. Be non-judgmental to yourself. It is what it is. Let's learn and then move on.
Yeah. I mean, as long as we are in this body, we're going to be imperfect. So let us just accept that. And let us still learn to love ourselves as well as reflect and see what else we need to do. Right. There's another thought that crossed my mind. What Duina was saying is this reflection and contemplation is not for others. It's not what others can do. And that's a very important point. All of this Gita and reflection and contemplation is for our own self. And when you make that change in yourself, day in, day out, that is when people will come and ask you for advice.
Although that is not the
And
reason
when
why
they come to you for advice, you never tell them what to do. You know what happens? When you start contemplating, you start realizing, oh, what would I do in that situation? And you're able to reflect non-judgmentally. You're able to bring out the right principles. And then you're able to tell them what you would do in that situation. That's it. So in any situation, when you're having a conversation, the reflection is always for yourself to experience. What would you do? Or what is going through you? Yeah. So and the third part which we covered is The starting point of everything is knowing that every situation is a blessing or a lesson. So you're reflecting with that purpose of that, you're reflecting with the purpose of that outcome only. Yeah, I think we continue reading.
Yeah, I think there's one more thing I'll explain while we read through this. There are two words here. There's man apman and there is ninda and stuti, right? So man apman means honor and dishonor. Honor and dishonor relate to the name you have acquired for yourself behind you. It's not on your face. What people talk about you behind you, that is honor and dishonor. Ninda and stuti is again what people talk of you, but they talk of you on your face. They will praise you in your face or they will condemn you in your face. That is ninda and stuti. Stuti being praise, ninda being condemnation. So good stuff and bad stuff that people talk of you on your face versus manapan, which is what people talk about you behind your back. That's the small, subtle difference between the two types. Let's read.
The evenness of the mind of a devotee is horn of a sense of deep love for everyone. A friendly act earns gratitude, and an inimical act is met with complete indifference. An honor is ascribed to the kindness of the Lord, and dishonor is regarded as an occasion to rectify shortcomings.
So this is another way of saying everything is a blessing, kindness of the Lord, and everything is a lesson, which is regarded as an occasion to rectify shortcomings. This is another way of saying that you're taking responsibility for the situation. If it didn't work out or if something went wrong, it also means that, but in our context, in our principles, it basically means lesson or a blessing. Yeah. Also, the one thing I wanted to highlight in the explanation in 19th shloka, unattached to his home. Home doesn't necessarily mean the physical abode. It means your comfort zone. And if you look at it from the lens of a comfort zone, you will realize we have many, many, many homes. Because we are comfortable in certain identities we hold to ourselves. And if that gets disturbed, we get disturbed. Right?
In fact, we are attached to a lot of physical aspects also, right? Where we are comfortable. Subah chai chahiye, मेरे को ऐसी ही चाय चाहिए, ऐसा ही food चाहिए, then I'm comfortable. I don't get it, I get upset. These are all little homes we create for ourselves, and we bind ourselves down to those states of being or ways of living.
Yeah, so unattached to his home basically means comfort zones.
The routines we create for ourselves. Routines like sometimes even I have a routine of doing certain puja, or I have a routine of attending satsang, right, Kakoli? We have a routine, and when that gets disturbed, we get upset, right? These are all examples of how we get attached to our home, which is what we need to move beyond. This first part, a friendly act earns a gratitude and an inimical act is met with complete indifference, right? So a friend is always considered as a daya of the God. Daya of the God, so that we are grateful for having friends around us or having friendly acts being done to us. Whereas foes, our enemies, are the kripa of the Lord, right? Kripa of Bhagwanji, that they are trying to teach us something. Bhagwanji ki kripa hai that we've got an opportunity to learn something. Now, in real life, what we really do on a daily basis and how we go against this principle, when people do something nice to us or people are doing a friendly act towards us, in most cases, especially with family, we are not grateful for what they do for us. We treat it as like our entitlement. You have to do this for us. You're expected to do this for us, because there are too many expectations built in with our family. right? And with that built-in expectations, we treat everything that they do for us as an entitlement. And we are at no point of time grateful for anything that gets done for us. And we get extremely upset when that entitlement is not met, when that expectation is not met on a daily basis. Notice this. Every single one of us is doing that on a daily basis with our parents, with our children, with our spouses, with our siblings, constantly, because we have tons of expectations from them. Expectations then lead to ungratefulness. They lead to no thankfulness when they actually do what we expect out of them, but we shower them with heaps of scorn when they don't do what is expected. So in this very act, we go against the principles. And obviously, if we are going against the principles of who we should be, do you think we will attract grace of God? We won't, right? We will reap the rewards of what we sow, which will be that we will get more enmity. We are sowing the seeds of foe. And then what do we do with foes? When there is an inimical act, we immediately get angry, upset. We get filled with a sense of, righteousness, that I am right, because I only look at life from my own lens. So I will treat every other person who is going against my interest, what my comfort zone, or whatever I consider as my interest, is a foe. I'll ascribe that person as an enemy, right? And then I will be filled with anger towards them. I will be filled with upset towards them. I'm going to name them names. And then I'm going to constantly, I'll be filled with inimical feelings towards them. And then I will, in more likely, in certain cases, in every case, I'm 100% sure all of us will end up having a lot of negative thoughts about them. And in certain cases, we'll end up doing negative actions also towards them, right? Instead of meeting that with complete indifference and treating this as a kripa of the Lord and trying to learn what are they trying to teach us, we end up being filled with negative emotions inside of us. And who does those negative emotions hurt? End of the day, we are the ones who reap the maximum negative benefit, negative impact of those negative emotions. We hurt ourselves first before we hurt anybody else. And we hurt ourselves 100 times more than what we can hurt someone else. Whatever hurt you will inflict on someone else outside, you will first know that you have already inflicted 100 times more hurt on yourself in some way. You might not recognize it, but it will show up in your body. It will show up in your mental health. Your mental, your emotional, and your physical health deteriorates every time you experience a negative emotion. And we slowly over a period of time, weaken ourselves, weaken our systems, weaken our thoughts, our brains, our emotions, our physical organs. And then eventually we reap the rewards of that.
I think the analogy for this negative emotion and anger, the one that always comes to my mind when I think of it is hot coal. You're grabbing hot burning coal to throw at somebody. But if you notice how anger works, it stays a long time inside of you before it comes out. And when it comes out, right? But it stays a long time. It simmers inside of you, which means you're holding that hot coal a lot longer than if you throw it at someone for a minute, it bounces off their body. Who gets hurt more? Your hand. So every time you're an instrument for negative energy, the only person being burnt is your hand, is yourself. You're holding on to it far more than who you spew it on.
Actually, anger is an emotion, right? If you think about it, how is it always represented? It is always represented with the thought of, it is always represented as fire. It is represented as something that burns, right? And in Hindi, we also say, कि जल जल के राख हुआ जा रहा है, right? जल जल के राख हो जाना, खून जलाना, मेरा बहुत खून जल रहा है. This is really the way things work. When you are angry, आपका खून जलता है. Your blood pressure actually goes up, physically speaking. Okay, under that stress, your blood pressure goes up. your heartbeat goes up. It creates massive amount of stress inside your body, which impacts the hormonal system inside of you, and it affects your digestion, your ability to absorb nutrients. Kalima, who used anger to kill the demons in the out of those when you read that Chandi part, right? So Kalima is depicted as absolutely black, and anger, because of the anger inside of her that she utilizes to kill, it has burned the skin and all her organs and everything inside of her. So she's depicted as literally like a black skeleton almost, which then goes and kills. That's how anger works. Now, anger obviously has a space as long as you control it. But the point is that when Ma also got angry, she had to be calmed down by the Devtas. Otherwise, after that anger was created to kill a certain Asur. But that anger has its own energy, and then she started to destroy everything else also in this world with that anger. And Devtas had to come to Lord and say, boss, like, help. Otherwise, she's going to destroy the whole world. So remember that about anger. And then Devtas had to come, they had to do so many things to placate the Ma and to bring the anger down.
And it's also the other thing about anger, I just want to say, although it's not relevant here, it's always easiest to direct anger at people who are weaker than you,
That's
who
actually
are
true.
subordinates. It's easy for you to yell at a team member or an intern who's junior. It is easy for you to express anger onto your children, right? Very difficult to do it on your authorities, your CEO of the company, right? Impossible for you to do it there. So when you use your anger and you use it on people who are dependent on you, who are lesser than you,
Or weaker
the
than
consequences you reap are far greater, as you can now appreciate. People who are in your care and you treat them with anger, imagine the consequences Bhagwanji will give you. So be very careful about this one too.
As Shalini Didi says, your helpers, your children, your subordinates, very, very careful of what you say.
Your husbands, they're also subordinates.
Mauke pe chauka. Okay, let's move.
The external stimuli of cold and the warmth and the internal feelings of the pleasure and pain do not affect the devotee, as they are regarded to be transient. Convinced that the source of all the happiness lies within, there is no solitude for happiness from external sources. Condemnation is regarded with indifference and commendation with gratitude. All these are conducive to the evenness of the mind.
So this is something we can experience when we do meditation, or those people who've done Vipassana, right? Every sense of pleasure, of pain that you've ever experienced in this world is, you and I both know, transient. It'll come and it'll go. If you associate your happiness with that, then when it comes, you will be happy, and when it leaves, you will be sad. So you will always be at the mercy of sansar, making you happy. And what is our natural state? Our natural state is Sat Chit Anand, bliss. Our natural state is bliss. Once we reach that state, then our dependency of any external stimulation will become zero for our happiness. And that's the state we need to become.
Being keen on contemplation, the devotee is brief in speech and is content with whatever is received. The devotee's mind is steady on the course of self-realization, and his home is selflessly used for propagating spiritual teachings. The Lord regards such a person of devotion is being dear to him.
So brief in speech again. Vani ka tap is a very important tap for us to observe. The more brief we are in speech, the less negative stuff we'll end up saying. So try and like observe yourself in speech. Vani ka tap is an important tap in our life.
So you speak with purpose.
Mm.
So many times we speak because to alleviate the awkwardness. Or we speak
impress.
We speak to impress. Or if I had a thought, how can I not share it with you?
Mm.
I should share it with you. Oh, and I should share it with you with 3 examples. And now I've got 3 more thoughts, so I should share those 3 thoughts with you also.
I've noticed that.
That's 25 minutes.
At one point of time in my life, I used to think that I must share every thought that comes in my head with Abhida, like every single one of them. Yeah.
The white hair doesn't come automatically.
Good joke, Abhinav Gupta. Move on.
So when we speak with purpose. And how do we define the purpose of speech? That will come later. But one thing I will say, you speak either to understand the other person's worldview better. So you ask a question to understand their worldview better, or you speak only if it brings the other person closer to their divinity.
Yeah. Another thing here is content with whatever is received, right? Jo prapt hai, wo paryapt hai. There have been a lot of questions on this in the past, right? Like if I'm content, then how would progress happen? How would progress of the world happen? How would my progress happen? Then I would never work towards something, right? Hopefully by now, we're much clearer on this. Maybe not entirely clear, but much more clearer as to how you can be content and yet continue to work towards improvements in general. But with the idea that improvement is not something that you're seeking out specifically, that improvement is a natural outcome of you doing your duty through the events, VVGPs, that will be naturally presented to you. You would naturally be presented with 100 things in your office, 100 problems to solve in your office, in your community, at your home, as a natural way of doing your duty as you are faced with VVGPs. When you do your duty in them selflessly, with only regard to the fact that there is a duty being presented, I need to give my best to it. And you will be able to give your best to it because you are in yoga, right? Yoga karmasu kaushalam, right? Your actions are always adroit. They are effective and they are most effective when you're in yoga with the Lord. You are in yoga with the Lord when every action is done selflessly as a duty with the seva bhav, with the yajna bhav. You're constantly sacrificing yourself. And when I say sacrificing yourself, it means what? Sacrificing your ego, sacrificing your attachment. Right? So progress is a natural byproduct. And finally, his home is selflessly used for propagating scriptural teachings. Now, not to be taken as a way of like, okay, I'm going to now, I have to teach other people. It basically means your home is your Kurukshetra. Your body is your Kurukshetra. And as you act on the scriptural teachings yourself, that the very action of that, your very act of being becomes a way for others to learn from. It's like you doing your duty and the music of that is constantly being created. And that is the bhajan of the Lord being sung on a constant basis. And that bhajan is being sung in your home, is being sung inside of you. That is the real bhajan. So don't take that to be the case where you're doing yagya, the physical act of it. The physical act of it is important to the extent that we are all gross beings and we constantly need the crutches of these physical things. Yagya, puja, satsang, bhajan,
Idol worship.
naam jap, all of that is there, right? But the real propagation of scriptural teachings is through their action, because people will follow your actions and not your words. Children learn from our actions and not from our words. Let's move on. Bhagyashree, you'll read.
Concluding, the Lord says,
Ye tu dharmyamritam midam
Ye tu dharmyamritam midam
yathoktam paryupasate
yathoktam paryupasate
shraddhana mat parma
shraddhadhana mat parma
bhaktaste Bhaktastetiva me priyaha.
bhaktastetiva me priyaha.
Let's read.
They who, endowed with faith and solely relying on me, follow this immortal law of moral life as described above. Such devotees are extremely dear to me.
So endowed with faith is Shraddhadhana, and solely relying on me is Mat Parma. The immortal law of life is Dharmyamritam, the Dharma ka Amrit, the nectar of the duty, the nectar of Dharma. The person who follows this is extremely dear to me. So what is the Dharma Amrit that is being told to us? Shlok 13 to Shlok 19. The being of a person, the resultant thoughts of such a being, his behavior internally, his behavior externally. This is the Dharma Amrit. And one who follows this Dharma Amrit through being filled with faith and with reliance on only the Lord is extremely dear to me. This person will uncontrollably attract his grace. One who follows this Dharma Amrit.
Devotion, the immortal law of moral life. The Lord describes the set of characteristics of devotion enumerated above as the immortal law of moral life, or dharmya, dharmyatrita.
Dharmya Amrit.
Dharmya Amrit.
Okay, stop here. Now this is 6 chapters on Bhakti Yoga finished. And this is the last shloka of the Shatak. And this is where he's explaining to you what is Bhakti. What is Bhakti? Bhakti is this Dharma Amrit that I've described above. So when Bhagwanji says that this is follow the Bhakti Yoga, walk the path of Bhakti, that Dharma Amrit is these 13 to 19 shlokas. This is what he calls as Bhakti. This is Bhakti Yoga. Finally, at the end of it all, he tells us what does he mean by the yoga through bhakti. Everything else that we thought are only external representations of it. The real bhakti yoga is all internal, of who I am as a person, how I behave, what thoughts I have, and how I treat others around me, or how I treat every VVGP around me. My behavior externally, my behavior internally, and my state of being. This is Bhakti Yoga. 13 to 19. That's the crux of Bhakti Yoga.
A person who cherishes a strong desire to manifest the above mentioned qualities in life, equipped with an abiding faith in the Lord and relying solely on Him, is regarded by the Lord as extremely dear to Him. The reason is that a person who regards these characteristics as the supreme gain of life develops an unshakable faith in them, and then the grace and kindness of the Lord gets attracted uncontrollably towards the devotee. Due to prevalence of wrong values of life, sometimes the mind falls a victim to despondency, and these qualities are regarded as being beyond the power of a human being to manifest. But if there is a strong desire to manifest them in life, a beginning may be made by grasping their correct meanings and by being convinced of the necessity of imbibing them.
Okay. So here, the important thing here is that as a part of Bhakti Yoga, basically the most important thing that changes as your goal of life is the goal changes from, so when we say, for example, we do Lakshmi Puja, right? Lakshmi Puja in traditional ritualistic life is regarded as doing puja of money, right? So you'll put gold coins, you'll put your money in there, you'll put all of that, and then all you're doing is doing puja of Lakshmi as a way of getting rich with money per se, right? Whereas when you think of like the word Lakshmi is not just a representation of money prosperity, all right? Lakshmi is when we say, you know, that we in our culture they say ki bahu ya wife in the house is Lakshmi of the house, and that Lakshmi of the house is not because she gets the money for the house. It's because she is the one who can imbibe all those different characteristics, right? So that is the real prosperity. And so our goal changes from doing puja or running after. So when I'm saying doing puja, it doesn't just mean Lakshmi puja, but also like puja is what? Whatever you are thinking about all the time, that is your puja. So if you're constantly thinking about earning money, you're constantly only thinking about, acquiring home or like buying this or buying that, then you're doing puja of that on a daily basis, because that's what your thoughts are all about, right? You transform that goal of acquiring these materialistic things towards acquiring these characteristics instead, right? Shloka 13-14. So that acquisition of these characteristics becomes your supreme goal. Equanimity of mind will become your supreme goal. And that is the wealth, that is the real wealth you will ask for. So in your Diwali puja, you will ask for these characteristics because this is the real wealth. This is the real prosperity. This is the real goal. So that is what transforms. Okay. Now, so that is one. And then he develops an unshakable faith. Why will this become your ultimate goal? Because you develop an unshakable faith that this is real stuff. Because when I become this, then I become extremely dear to the Lord. And then I attract his grace.
So let me rephrase this, not rephrase, let me add on to what Tuvina is saying with a slightly different perspective. As human beings, none of us can live and survive alone. We are nothing but a small cog in a huge machinery of planet Earth, right? We all are extremely nichely specialized in being able to create value. I can't make my own clothes. I don't even know how to make a toothbrush. I wouldn't be able to make a bar of soap if I did not rely on the countless human beings who are helping to provide for me to keep me alive. Forget that. I wouldn't even know where to get water if the tap stops working. I wouldn't even know how to get food. We are alive because of the duty countless human beings are doing and we have access to. We feel powerful because we may have a little bit of money and we make it transactional. So we think we have power.
I mean, pandemic taught us that, right? Yeah. In pandemic, then everything went back to basics.
So in reality, right? This is an illusion that we have, that we control because we have a little bit of money. What Bhagwanji is saying, remove that complete illusion, because it's an absolute delusion. Your entire survival, your entire well-being is all me. The only person for you to rely on is me. Stop relying on your local person to provide you bread and dal, chawal. Just rely on me. If you rely on me, you're automatically relying and depending and loving every other person who are nameless and faceless, but who've allowed us to be productive today. Right? So that's how I would ask us to look at the phrase solely relying on me. We have to surrender ourselves. Right now, we're surrendering ourselves to our circumstance and we think we control it because we have some power. He's saying all that is an illusion.
And then it says that, did we read this one? Due to prevalence of wrong values?
Yeah,
we
we
did,
have
right?
to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's read this, then we'll come back to it. Bhagish, actually start reading from this due to prevalence of wrong values.
Due to prevalence of wrong values of life, sometimes the mind falls a victim to despondency, and these qualities are regarded as being beyond the power of a human being to manifest. But if there is a strong desire to manifest them in life, a beginning may be made by grasping their correct meanings and by being convinced of the necessity of imbibing them. If they sound impractical, the blame lies in the weakness of one's own mind for these qualities are correct beyond the shadow of a doubt. One should firmly pray to the Lord to remove this weakness. If there is any apprehension of any loss or damage by adherence to them, one should pray to the Lord either for strength to adhere to them or for removal of the apprehension. God realized saints testify that then the Lord surely protects his devotees through his ways of doing so are inscrutable.
So I think a lot of times we end up, and I think all of us may have said this at one point of time, कि यार, I am not Bhagwan. Okay? So don't expect that level of nicety from me. Don't expect me to be calm. Don't expect me to be generous or kind, or don't expect me to be forgiving, because I'm not Bhagwan. I'm not Ram. I mean, it's enough number of times we've seen this in the movies as well, which is a cultural reflection, right? So this basically talks directly to that being, which is an escape route we provide to ourselves constantly by saying, I can't do it. I am being who I am being because I'm not Bhagwan yet. So I will do whatever I am doing, right? It's an escape route, right? So what Bhagwanji is saying clearly here is that escape route is not available to the Bhakt. Okay. And
I think
while you may make mistakes, right? You will make mistakes. All of us make mistakes, but don't use that as an escape route. The fact that you think that you are not able to manifest that quality right now should only be ascribed to the fact that I am not strong enough yet. And then ask God for strength and work towards imbibing that quality. That's very, very important. Instead of using this as an escape route that, oh, I'm not perfect, I'm not Bhagwanji, and I'm not this, I'm not that. Realize that, yeah, that is a weakness. Apologize, but ask Bhagwanji for strength and continue to imbibe them. And then there are always, we have manyatas. Ki life mein aise hi kaam hota hai. This is the way of being I have to be to survive in this world, right? So if these values go against any of those widely accepted ways of being, then understand that these values actually are true beyond a shadow of doubt. And if they go against those widely accepted ways of being, then you have to challenge them and ask God for help and strength in adhering to these values, like Gandhi did when he adhered to non-violence, like he adhered to his pursuit of truth, which was, and a lot of things he did were just not in consonance with what was accepted as a way of, for example, getting your independence. But because he stuck to it and he prayed to Lord for strength and he continued to adhere to the values of Gita, he finally found 1 million followers and he ultimately led to India's independence in the most non-violent movement ever in this world. Right? That's an example that's like super close to our home, to who we are being, right? So that's a big example that's historically recorded. There are tons of other examples that are not historically recorded, but bear truth to this.
It has to be remembered that there is nothing impossible for the Lord. What is impossible for a human being is made possible by him with a flourish of his hand. By strengthening one's faith in him, these qualities start manifesting in a person's life, and then no effort is needed to acquire them. The Lord's loving grace rectifies the shortcomings of a devotee's discipline, and to give this strong assurance, the Lord says that such a devotee is extremely dear to him.
So, two things here. We studied this in chapter 10, which is Vibhuti Yoga, right? Vibhuti, if you remember, does anyone remember what Vibhutis are? Anyone wants to give it a try? Yeah.
It's where you can see the Lord's presence around you, like something which stands out and which is exuberant, and you notice that when you look at it, you see that this is the Lord.
So, yeah. So, Vibhutis are basically subtle qualities given by Bhagwan Ji that make us who we are. Like all the strengths that we have, they are all his Vibhutis.
So like
And
somebody can sing well, that's Bhagwanji's Vibhuti. Somebody is showing strong leadership potential, that's Bhagwanji's Vibhuti. Somebody can run extremely fast, that Bhagwanji's Vibhuti. Somebody or something is really beautiful. Even like you see outside and you see beautiful flowers, that Bhagwanji's Vibhuti.
Yeah. So we are all born with Vibhutis, right? We all are born with these qualities. These are all in chapter 10 explained, given by Bhagwan Ji. So all these other qualities we are now reading in chapter 12, right? These are also qualities that he gives to us. We just need to manifest the yearning to have them. Those qualities already exist. He's waiting to give it to us. But he will give it to us only when we have one, complete surrender, and two, a yearning to be with Bhagwanji and to manifest that divinity. And that's it. You have these two things, that's Bhakti Yoga, you will experience everything else. You will get everything else.
Okay, we'll finish the chapter.
Sure.
Om Tatsaditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjun Samvade Bhakti Yogo Nam Dwadasho Adhyayah. Hari Om Tatsat. Hari Om Tatsat. Hari Om Tatsat. start chapter 13 from the next class. I think
Which
we
is
can do some
the next
quiz.
shatak, which is the Gyan Yoga.
Yeah, we'll start Gyan Yoga, the next shatak. Last shatak. The last 6 chapters.
Some great chapters ahead.
So, takeaways.
I'll go.
Please.
So I think what stood out for me today was this whole thought that you said that every time that we have experience a negative thought, there is a deterioration of our physical and mental health. And I think it's very true. And I mean, I could actually relate it to my story, saying like every time, something really does not go my way, or every time, something happens which is beyond my expectations at work and a result which I'm not expecting, obviously there's a spiraling effect which happens, and why me, and so I think for me the learning point today is how am I able to control my mind, and the fact that it's a subconscious mind. I mean, how do I whatever it is that I need to do to have control of my subconscious mind, so that I'm able to have positive thoughts, I'm able to have I'm able to bring my focus back on my sadhana, my prayers and stuff like that, so that the experience is far more better uh, in whatever it is that is happening currently.
So you cannot be aware, or you cannot control your subconscious mind, right? It's like the tip of the iceberg and the iceberg below. You just cannot see it. It's underwater. There are some things in life you know. There are some things in life you don't know. Like you don't know how to fly a plane, or you don't know how to do ballet, right? But 90% of the things you don't know that you don't know. And that is your subconscious mind. So if you don't know that you don't know, you have no idea what you're dealing with. All you can be is slightly aware.
Yeah.
What you are experiencing and where you're coming from in every situation.
Become aware and watch the symptoms of your subconscious.
Yeah.
The symptoms of your subconscious are the emotions that come up.
Yeah.
Your actions that you do, the reactions that happen in situations, and questioning yourself on those things as to like what triggered it, why did I behave in a certain way, would help you slowly uncover the peels of the onion and then understand where your subconscious is. And once you've uncovered that subconscious, once you have understood it, once you've seen it, once you have understood it, once you become aware of it, you can never become unaware of it again. And once you become aware of it, you can do something about it. You can start to consciously put new habits, new practices into play, which will then alter that, right? Or everything in your subconscious is a result of past practices, by the way. It's your past behavior patterns, your past actions that have created, right? It's like you've started to play tennis and then you work suppose you learn a wrong way to hit a ball, you learn a wrong backhand. That's it. After that, every time that ball will come for a backhand, you will continue to hit with that wrong technique until somebody tells you or you become aware. You are aware that your hit is not that strong, it is not landing where you want it to be. Those symptoms tell you something is not right there, and then you uncover and slowly you understand there's something wrong, and then there may be a tennis coach who will tell you what is wrong with it, and then you start to practice. Once you become aware of what is wrong with your backhand, then you slowly start to practice. Consciously you practice the new technique, and there will be a period of transition, but after enough practice your new technique will become your new habit. So your subconscious has changed at that point of time.
So the other part of your sharing that I want to comment on is you use the word control a few times. And today's class, we just learned it's not about control at all. It's about contemplation. It's about wonder. It's about reflection.
Actually,
So
our
use-
desire
try
to
and-
control.
try and
Yeah.
phrase, let's try and phrase words in a way that are reflective of what we want to be. Otherwise, if we are using the old words in the new paradigm, your change will be minuscule because your framework will still be around control, attachment, results.
So, as we said before, what reflects our inner being, our emotions, our behaviors, our actions, reactions, and words. Right? So become aware of those words as well and change your language. Change the language very consciously, and that will start to create new changes subconsciously as well. Control is something we need to give up. That whole desire of control, the pursuit of happiness, these are the prime causes of our unhappiness. Pursuit of happiness and desire to control.
I can go.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I really liked about is the time that we talked about whatever happens around us, it could be either blessing or a lesson. So we have to take the lesson as like without our judgment, without being judged, or without taking it as a judgment on ourselves. We have to take it as saying like, this is the lesson for us to rectify the shortcoming with the Lord in our mind. So that is a very easy thing for, at least for me to judge myself like, oh, I could have done better. Or I should take it as like, okay, I have to work on it. Or, with him in mind, I can work on it and get myself better.
Very nice. Kakuli?
I can do, yeah. My first very important takeaway is the fact that this is a very important chapter and a point of reference as I go forward to go through the pages and the learning. But what both of you said about the difference between reflection and analysis. And reflection is when I reflect on my action is when I'm not being judgmental on others. Analysis is when like I'm kind of trying to find the fault in others to justify my own action. So that is a takeaway, and that is, I think, something
But
I
judging
need.
yourself, Kakuli, judgment, external or internal, both need to be suspended to see things as they are.
As
When
they
we
are,
are
yes.
judging ourselves or others, then we are not seeing things for what they are, and we are not able to take learnings away from it. In that case, we've already put on a lens of judgment, and we'll only see a colored world.
Yes, so that is something I think it's something I really need to practice much more. And the last thing is, as we always say, even in the Ramcharitmanas class and here, that it should be complete surrender to God. And every situation is either a blessing or a lesson, as you say, and to take away from that and to understand that nothing is in our control. Like everything that's happening around us is because He wishes that to happen. So those are my takeaways. But I also want to go back to last class, and this is more for Smita, because I was listening to the recording yesterday night, and it was about what she said about her teenager at home. So I just want to tell her, because I went through it. I mean, just to hang out there, because the moment she turns 19, things will change. I mean, it at this point, like where you are, I mean, I also went through it. Like you feel as you have not brought up the child well, you start blaming yourself. I too felt sick only, but then as she turned 19 and now she's 20, they completely change, and then you see your values coming out, reflecting on them. So I just wanted to tell her, assure her that this is just a very organic process, just hanging out there.
Thank you so much, Kakuli. That's such a reassurance. I think I'll go next. I've really enjoyed this chapter because I think I am also in the journey of my life where suddenly a lot of faith has come in place where we've been doing these classes for 3 years, right? And now at this point, I think that that feeling has come that there is either a blessing, and now I've started relishing the blessing which is also coming my way. Earlier, I would not recognize them as much. At the same time, I've started working on the learnings which is getting reflected in my actions, that I need to learn from this, and I've stopped, like, there's a complete, not complete yet, I think there's a long way to go, but that faith that life is fair, like, you have these questions, why is this happening, why not? So now you've realized that it's fair, it is working as it should be. You just have to learn from it and count your blessings. So it's been a great learning, great chapters to go through, and especially 12th is where I think everything comes to, like, the whole uh, journey has kind of come to that point where we have started really enjoying it, relishing it, experiencing it ourselves, and seeing it in our lives. So totally, and I echo everyone's sentiments on today's learning about analysis and judgments and everything. I think as a person, it has come down a lot more than what it was when we started 3 years back. So definitely, I see that in myself. I don't know whether others see around me or not. That's a different question. But I see it in myself that life is more peaceful than what it was before. That's a great experience myself.
Beautiful. Sanchita, Bhagishri?
Yeah.
Not sister, Nena.
Okay.
But
No,
Bhagishri,
go
Bhagishri, go,
Bhagishri. No, I said Sanchita and Bhagishri, so I just wanted to change that.
Okay. So, how this Shloka 18 is talking about evenness of mind, where we have to treat everyone as equal. That is kind of a good learning for me, because we are biased towards people, and people are biased towards us also. So it's both ways. But then from inside, I can just be I mean, who I am means, like, treating everyone as equal. And another thing, which Tuhina said, that what you are thinking, what we are always thinking, is our puja. We think that puja is the time in the morning when we do, like, for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or in the evening, or whenever we pray to Lord, that is our puja. But during the day, like, we have 24 hours, we are thinking so many things about people, about other people, about us, about how we are behaving to them, how they are behaving, what is happening and what not. So yeah, so that is a good lesson.
Absolutely. We become our puja, basically. So we become our thoughts. So that's why we have to be very careful, and we have to become aware of our thoughts. If we are constantly thinking about other people's shortcomings, if we are constantly gossiping, if we are thinking about negative things, trust me, all those things that we are gossiping about, things that we are ranting about, they will become a part of our lives. We will become them, exactly what we are ranting our lives about. And if we focus on other people's positives, if we are constantly being in a state of gratefulness, if we have positive thoughts, those values will become a part of us. We are our thoughts. We are what we consume. And our thoughts are what we consume, what we listen, what we eat, what we think about. That's who we will become.
So yeah, my takeaway would be how the whole chapter came together in this. Like your starting lines only put everything together. Like how your 13 to 14 is the characteristics, and 16, 17 internal state, and then finally the external behavior. And ultimately, Bhakti Yoga is your state of being. That's what I understood. Finally, it just came together. So yeah, that's it. And again, about how we are attached to our comfort zones. I think that is the biggest hindrance to growth. So that's where we need to always be aware of what we are attached to, how we don't want to move forward sometimes because we are comfortable and we just don't want to change the equilibrium there. So yeah, that adds to that really. I mean, it's relevant to me right now. So
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for the lovely takeaways. Oh, yeah. No, Anita shared.
Anita, you shared?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed it.
The second one to share. Okay. Okay. So quick thoughts on Namjap. Second week of Namjap for everyone. We got 4 minutes. Are you able
Nina,
to
can
do
I?
what you said you will do? What's going on?
I wanted to check something. So I actually put down 3. Why? Because the Maha Mantra I do 3, but I also do the Guru Mantra and I also take my Guru's name and I do 2-3 malas of that. But I didn't put that because I didn't know whether that's part of jap. So actually in the day I do much more, but Maha Mantra sitting down on the mala, I always do 3 of them and then I know I'm done and the rest is like other mantras which I also do on the bead. More on the bead, I feel more grounded. So I've slotted it out. But does that mean that I'm doing more jap, or it's like
So for this particular Anushthan, we are only doing Maha Mantra,
Maha Mantra,
Maha
na?
Mantra jap.
Yeah.
And that's the number that you commit for, and that's
Okay,
the number that you are going to
Okay.
complete.
Okay.
See, the example here would be, suppose we are told to do a certain activity for the satsang, right? Now that doesn't mean that you will stop the rest of your life, right? You won't say, I won't go to office, I won't cook food, I will not tend to my family, I will not tend to my other community activities, right? Because now I am doing, say, preparation for Ras Leela. Now my entire life will be Ras Leela. That's not how life is led. So same thing about this, right? This is everything that we do in satsang is something that will teach us to be more effective human beings in our daily life. That's the reason. Nothing is without a reason here. Yeah. So yeah, only what you're doing 3, that means you're doing 3 and you reach that. And if you do extra, then that's the extra that you report. Doesn't have to be limited to you sitting down in one place, doing it on a certain bead. And that's a good thing. You should do a few of those like that. And while you're doing it, your attempt should be to keep in your mind Bhagwanji's this thing, his image, because that helps to concentrate your mind, right? So you should definitely do that. It helps to increase ekagrata in you, so helps to concentrate. But other than that, then you shouldn't stop doing it for the rest of the day. Whatever else free time you have, no, I wouldn't say free time, whatever time you have, you should use that beyond whatever else you're doing. You should use that for Nam Jap. It does not matter how you're doing it. There is no condition about you focusing, not focusing, concentrating, not concentrating, doing this, doing that, having 20 emotions. There's only one shart, and that shart is your jeeb should take Nam Jap. Your jeeb should do Nam Jap. That's the only shart. There is nothing else. Every other shart we put ourselves. I must do it like this, like that, like in this situation, in that situation. Those are our limitations. That's not the limitation that this Nam Jap has placed on us, or our parampara has placed on us. Okay. As Kabir had said once, कि it does not matter कि बीज आप सीधा डाल रहे हो कि उल्टा डाल रहे हो. Once you put it in, it will bear, it will sprout. So Nam Jap is like that. Yeah. Any other thoughts around Nam Jap anyone wants to share? Otherwise, we'll do closing shlokas.
I can share. As I'm doing it, it gets a lot more easier. And first week, remembering to do Nam Jap was my first priority. I'm like, oh my God, I had to do Nam Jap. And then now it comes a little bit more natural, and I can go with my, clicker in my hand all the time, and I'm able to do it better. First, when I signed up, I was a little bit afraid whether I can make 3. So I signed up for 2. But it wasn't that difficult for me to hike up the number to 3.
Very nice.
Even though I signed up for 2, I'm doing 3 a day. I think I can, as I'm going into it more, I think I can do a little bit more. So
that's awesome. And but please send me all the extra malas that everyone's doing like right after class today, so that I can record it in the master sheet.
Yeah. Tell us the extra malas and keep increasing. Just because you've committed 2 or 3 or X number, don't stop there. Okay. Take that as your minimum and not the maximum. Okay. And keep doing more and more and more. That will only increase your own capacity and increase the pace of internal Shuddhikaran and give us the extra malas that you're doing. So next year, as you keep increasing your capacity this year, next year you'll feel a lot more comfortable to take on X plus Y. Okay. Thank you. Let's do closing shlokas.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ ॐ
Just changed. Where do I close?